Argue more fun.
Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to Lawsplaining the Interwebs. I'm your host, Nick Rekieta of Rekieta Law, a small law firm in central Minnesota. And with me today is a filthy casual.
Hi, I'm Charles, the Casual Otaku on YouTube. Y'all can just call me Casual. I was one of the first people to actually cover the Mignogna situation when it first broke. And so we're going to be sitting here today and talking about the situation.
Right. And we are live from CONmunity in Amarillo, Texas. So if you do hear background noise, stop complaining. That's just a reality of the venue.
Thanks, Spider-Man.
But yeah, so we'll be talking about the Mignogna situation, a little bit different than what I've been doing. Because for me, of course, I've been talking about it mostly from a legal perspective. This one's going to be a little more casual, back and forth. That was for you, buddy.
Thank you. I appreciated that one.
Make sure you check out his channel. It's Casual Otaku.
Yes, the Casual Otaku on YouTube, or don't.
Or don't. He's an animator. He does some really cool work. If you like anime style art, check it out. Check it out for sure. So how do you want to get this discussion started?
So let's just give a quick brief overview about what happened. Nothing like an hour-long panel or anything like that, but so just to sum up what happened, it started with Mars Girl, right? Mars Girl with the tweet.
Well, I mean, I guess you could go back one day earlier. There was someone named Han Leia, but since Han Leia has been freaking out about Mignogna for a decade, I kick it off with Mars Girl because she created the hashtag #KickVic. So yeah, I think that's safe.
Have any of you guys heard of the YouTuber Nostalgia Critic? Yeah, one of his old employees or coworkers, Mars Girl, came out and basically said that there were a ton of rumors about Mignogna among conventions, that he was getting a little creepy with some convention goers, and she basically said, why don't we start a hashtag #KickVic? A couple weeks later, an anime news network published an article that basically was recounting a lot of the allegations, a lot of which ended up being discredited. And then a couple days after that, both Funimation and Rooster Teeth basically dropped him from everything.
Right, and if you want to get real deep into the lore on this, there is actually an organized effort by Anime News Network that predates all of this by a couple days. The organized effort is a spreadsheet, or not really a spreadsheet, but a Google Drive document. Yeah. And that Google Drive document has the names of several voice actors who they found to be quote-unquote problematic. And the problematic moniker was attached to Mignogna, as well as Todd Haberkorn, as well as several other people. And Anime News Network actually put out a tweet asking for people for their stories about anybody on this list. And then that's when, shortly thereafter, we had the Mars Girl tweet, and then Anime News Network did their hit piece on Mignogna. I call it a hit piece. You can call it whatever you want, but I suggest hit piece.
So what I really want to talk about is the different possibilities and theories around the event.
Sure.
So one thing that I really want to talk about that I don't think anyone has talked about is what should Vic do? What should we do? What should his lawyers do if it turns out that the allegations are true?
That's a very good question. I haven't focused too much on it, mainly because I'm of the strong belief that the allegations are largely nonsense.
Same, but...
Right. So just so we're all clear on where we stand, this is a hypothetical exploration of that. The interesting thing, let me pose this or answer this in the lawyerly way.
Okay.
Whether or not they're true ultimately doesn't matter. Because from the legal standpoint, what can you prove?
That's very true.
That's the real challenge that I don't think the anti-Vic people are taking into consideration. While even if we go the absolute worst route and say everything is absolutely true, they have to prove that it's true. to prevail in this lawsuit. So they face a really, really high uphill battle. For me, to answer your question in a legitimate way, I didn't mean to dodge it.
No,
but to answer your question legitimately, for me, if it turns out that everything is true, I'm still satisfied because someone got their day in court and we got to use the process in the way it's designed to go ahead and figure out the factual situation. We can actually measure out the evidence. We'll have an impartial jury. And I know I've been accused, for example, of attempting to taint a jury pool, which I don't think people realize how big jury pools are in like Dallas.
Yeah.
You're talking 9 million people in that metro, plus a whole lot of people surrounding that area. The jury pool won't be tainted no matter how many YouTube videos are out there. That's nonsense. They're going to have a jury of 12 people who have no idea who Vic Mignogna is. I know that's hard for many of you to believe. That's a joke.
I wish we had that many subscribers.
There's no way, or they'll get 12 people who have no idea who Vic Mignogna is. They'll have, many of them won't even know what anime is. They will have no idea about any of this stuff. And what they're going to see is, they're going to see a few people testifying to the truth of their own statements. Why they believe their statements to be true or not true. They're going to have to present some sort of evidence to convince a jury that their words are true about a person who's accused of some pretty heinous things.
Yeah, and like, I mean, they're not going to get like Rekieta law fans. They're not going to seek them out. They're obviously going to go for people who are like,
although they should.
Although they're going to go out with people like my dad, like who's like, what are you doing? A convention? What's that? What's cosplaying? He asked me like a week ago. They're gonna get stuff that people who have no connection to Vic, probably people who have never seen Full Metal Alchemist, even though that's a mortal sin. Stuff like that. Anyway.
I've seen the first episode. That's why I kept calling him Edwin.
See, you gotta go for the second episode. Second episode is when it gets good.
I saw his brother get annihilated. That was rude.
That's fair. But anyway, I wanted to ask you personally, what are some theories that you have about what all went down, why they're doing this? Because I have my own theories that I want to spitball towards you.
Sure.
But I'd first like an overall view of like, what do you think happened or inspired this?
I'll do it. I'll answer your question, but like a true lawyer, I'm going to charge you for it.
Of course.
And the charge is, how did you explain cosplay to your dad?
Oh, I told him it's like Halloween, but like it's at a convention about the things you're dressing up as. And you have to pay money for the candy. And the candy is anime figures.
Don't eat your anime figures. All right. So the question that the answer that I have, why do I think this is happening? This is going to be tainted by my own coverage of the greater culture scene outside of the anime community. I've only really started covering. I used to watch anime 15 years ago, longer than a lot of people here have been alive. So that's my life. But since then, I wasn't really covering it. I was covering other legal topics, and then I started covering comics, which I was in the same boat as anime. And then I did a couple streams with some anime guys who had been watching my show, and then I got into this Vic Mignogna situation because people were like, hey, what's going on here? What are his options? So in covering the comics community, I've seen, and then the greater culture, I guess, around the online space, you see this sort of descent into, I call it descent into neo-feminism, which is one of those buzzwords, but basically a rift being drawn between men and women and stigma being attached to their natural interactions. Right, the idea that going up to somebody and asking them if they want to maybe catch dinner or a movie or something like that could be perceived by the other person as an assaultive act. And
for the record, not all views expressed by Rekieta Law are entirely shared by the casual otaku. Most of them are, though. And yeah, All of them. I agree, yeah, with stuff like that. I mean, like, I asked them if they want to go to dinner the other day, and they turned me down, and then I stopped.
It was an assault, frankly.
Yeah,
it was.
I harassed you, and I apologize.
Definitely. Yeah, well, never apologize.
I'm never going to work again. So, so your view is kind of like there was a politically charged attack on Vic. Why do you think that is? Do you think it's just that he's really popular and they wanted to bring it down? Do you think it was his super uber like Christian like self? What do you believe?
I believe it's a strong mix. And the reason I do is because the initial accusers, I'm not talking about the pylons. I think there's some opportunist accusers here, but if we go back to Mars Girl and if we go back to Hanlea, you find people who have exactly the type of language you would expect in these types of accusations.
Jamie Marchi types, like
yeah. Well, and I think Jamie Marchi and Monica Rial, I call them pylons. I do think they're adjacent to like a Mars Girl and a Hanlea, but I think what you've got with Mars Girl and Hanlea is a resistance to someone who is popular, who is male, and who they perceive I think they genuinely do perceive his actions to be predatory. Now, I don't think that that's rational. I just think that's what they perceive.
You think they're acting out of what they think is goodwill, but it's not, essentially, sort of.
I'm going to give them that benefit of the doubt. I hope to God I'm right. Because if I'm wrong about that and they're just being malicious, then they're the worst people on earth.
That's generous. So I have a personal theory. Let me go ahead and share a little story from my past. So when I was in high school, senior year, my family saved up. We were going to go on a trip to Italy, right? We were going to skip my graduation day just to pack, and then I was going to go. Had a ton of fun. But I was dating a girl at the time who kind of wasn't the best for me. So like health-wise, mental health-wise. So the day before we left, I might have broken up with her. I know, kind of.
Rip.
Yeah.
R.I.P. relationship.
Kind of a jerk move. What?
Can we get an F in the chat? That's from the audience.
We got an F. Thanks, Mike.
Let's relationship and peace that one.
But then, after that happened, right, she told her friends that I might have taken advantage of her, which was just not true. I never did anything like that. The last few times we actually messed around at all, she was the one who wanted to do stuff. I didn't, because I was planning on breaking up with her.
How gentlemanly of you.
I know, right?
That could have gone a different way.
I keep things casual. So what I did, so my personal theory is that with Vic, right, the Broly movie comes out, right?
Yeah.
Vic has admitted to cheating on his wife once with someone. He's been shown to be very close to Jamie Marchi, or not Jamie Marchi, Monica Rial.
Yep.
So my theory is maybe the Broly movie came out, maybe he used that like big moment in his life, like going to Italy, as an opportunity to end some unhealthy relationships. I hope she's not watching. And then maybe like she's a bitter ex, possibly. And maybe she called some people, I don't know. Like that's a personal theory of mine. It could be that she just decided to add on. What do you think of that theory personally?
I don't buy it.
You don't buy it?
I don't buy it. You could be right. I mean, absolutely, I have no idea. But I think, here's my theory on what happened. I was kind of getting to this, and then I stopped.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, that's fine. I'm not blaming you. I'm blaming me. My brain does this. My theory on this is you had the initial, we'll call them bad actors, and then you had this group of people who Vic considered to be friends and co-workers. You have Monica Rial, you have Jamie Marchi, you have Chris Sabat, and you have Sean Schemmel. And I guess kind of on the periphery of that, you have Jesse Pridemore, but I'm gonna ignore her like everybody else should.
Like everyone else does.
Okay, so you have this other group, and this is what I consider to be the important group, the people who actually made this happen. Because Vic had been riding through this for about 2.5 weeks before Markey and Rial started to speak up. And once they did, and I think they're accompanied behind the scenes by Schemmel and Sabat. Schemmel and Sabat, I believe, were making statements about Vic to Funimation. But I think they remained, Schemmel's insane, so that's a whole different thing. But he remained pretty quiet on Twitter. He had a couple statements and then he shut up. So whatever second personality took over and shut him down. Sabat made very few statements on Twitter, and they're maybe a little bit leaning towards the females, but mostly neutral, to be fair. I think behind the scenes, they were petitioning Funimation to get Vic removed because I think they genuinely don't like him. And I have heard rumblings. I've heard rumblings that their dislike from him is not related to any creepy behavior, but it's their perception about him as what we would call a prima donna, or someone who's very high maintenance and egotistical. So you gotta picture yourself, put yourself in Monica Rial's shoes for a minute. Forget that Ron Toye exists when you do it. And you're sitting at a convention next to Vic Mignogna. Vic's line is 100 people deep. Your line is 20 people deep.
Yeah, I couldn't picture being with someone who's like way more popular on the same panel.
Okay, come on. No, so you've got this, but you've got this physical.
Yes.
You've got this physical appearance. You've got your line next to you is a line that's 3-4 times the size. Every single convention when you're at the same place. So, and then if he comes out of that panel, he has to do his little prayer circle, which I think is funny and just fine. But you combine that with convention staff who've over and over have said that they felt like they were mistreated, even though I get the impression from Vic that he doesn't try to mistreat anybody, but he might not have been aware of it. Same thing actually happened with William Shatner on the original Star Trek.
Yeah.
He found out from his coworkers that they all thought he was kind of a douche. And I think that is what happened to Vic Mignogna, is that these people saw an opportunity to remove someone that they didn't like, and then they latched on with, I mean, objectively weak accusations coming from Markey, coming from Rial. Like, even if you say that he did these things, they're not crimes.
Yeah.
They might have been inappropriate, and I think there's real problems with their statements. But that's me.
So if I can just say, are you sure? Like, here's my question: is it that they did this over they don't like him as a person, or they're jealous? Because from what I've seen, right?
Yes.
Sean Schimmel. No one goes to see Sean Schimmel. They go to see the voice of Goku. Like, sorry, Sean, shots fired, but whatever. People go to see Vic because Vic is a person. He has a personality. He's like Edward Elric. He's this, and this. Sean Schimmel, Goku.
Crazy person.
Yes.
That's his other. He's a great cosplayer at that.
So do you think it's that Vic is a jerk, or do you think that it could be that they're just like, he's more popular than me?
I don't think Vic is consciously a jerk. I've spoken with him a couple times, and I get the impression that he is a guy who genuinely believes he's trying to be good. But I do think that people can get that their ego can kind of run, and they can blind themselves to negative feedback from people, and especially someone who has lines of people wanting to see and be with him. I think it's very possible for a guy like that their brain to filter out any negatives, or even the possibility of negatives, and only remember positive. Because that's you don't want to remember bad things. Right? So I think that's a possibility. I don't think he's consciously mean or anything like that, but I do think that maybe some people thought he was a bit high maintenance. But I do think the jealousy plays a huge part in it. Okay. If I had to give it percentages, 70% jealousy, 30% they think he's a jerk. How's that?
That's fair. Okay, so my question is with the Monica. Next question is with the Monica Rial stuff.
Yeah.
Rial, I don't know. so when she left her initial statement extremely vague. When I was covering this, I hated it because I was like, well, what did he do?
He did something.
Yeah, that's the thing. She was like, these people aren't lying because I've experienced stuff like this too. To which I'm something along those lines. To which I'm like, what does that mean? Then she comes out later and she says that he brought her to a hotel room.
Right.
He kissed her.
Mm-hmm.
She let it happen, according to her. She claims she froze up, but she said she let it happen. And then she didn't say whether they did or did she say whether they did anything or not? Because it wasn't in the initial statement. I think it was implied.
I don't remember what was in the initial statement. What I remember seeing is something along the lines of, we started kissing, let it happen for a little bit, and then it stopped because we weren't into it.
So,
something, but I don't know if that's, maybe I'm imagining that.
So that's not a, like, something that should get someone blacklisted from the industry for, right?
That's something that happens every day, a million times across the country, because it's a guy and a girl getting together, deciding to see if they need to take their relationship in a direction, and then deciding no. And that's, as long as everyone stops when people are done, who cares? Like, that's, you chalk that up to life experience and you move on. That's it.
So do you think that it was, so would you say that Monica was right in sharing her side of things, or do you think that, like, that was so inappropriate of her to, like, bring forward something that clearly isn't a crime just to tarnish his image, and then to be so vague about it that people who do drop off the story don't hear the update? Here's
the problem with her initial statement. It's something that a friend of mine likes to call accusation by imagination, or the slang for that is lying and implying. Okay, so you leave the accusation to an implication created by the person who hears it, right? You have to understand, this happened to me too. Well, what? What happened to you too? Did he kiss you? Did he touch you? Did he go, like, did he get really way far into it? And your brain starts creeping towards the worst thing. So that is a horrific thing to do to someone. You never want to leave someone with lying and implying, because you just spell out what they did. If they did something to you, just spell it out. Otherwise, our brains automatically start to get worse. And it gets much harder to walk back those, your initial thoughts. Because then you think, well, if the person was hesitant about saying it, are they leaving something out now when they clarify the statement? It's a real problem. So I think if she had come out and made her initial statement, she knows exactly what would have happened. A bunch of people would have said
so?
Yeah, so what?
And now she's like the front runner of this whole thing, pretty much, like, and from the perspective of people like me. So what you're saying, that what she did is basically kind of like if I said, so I was over selling art at my booth, by the way, and then Rekieta Law walks up and he did something and he gave me something and then he left. And it turns out he just gave me his coat to hold on to when he went to go do something. Like, that's essentially sort of along the same lines. It's like implying that he did something terrible when he didn't, essentially.
Right. And I do, I mean, I think that's even more innocuous than Monica's statement, obviously, but only a little bit. Like, in all honesty, it's that basic, that it's this basic human interaction. That's why I go back to that point I was making earlier about this group of people who wants to turn basic interaction into something nefarious when it's really, really not. And that's kind of a product of this Twitter culture where it's given a tiny minority opinion a much bigger voice, because they're very, very loud. And they're very prolific in the amount that they tweet and communicate about this stuff on social media. Really quickly, for the benefit of the audience, which is much bigger than when we started, Can we reintroduce you?
Sure, because I saw someone ask, "Who's the twink on the right?" To which I say, "Hi, I'm the Casual Otaku. I am a YouTuber who was kind of one of the first people to immediately come out about this stuff. Because fun fact, I was planning on making a video about the allegations before all this came out. Because the allegations have been around for a while, and I like Vic as a person. So from what I've seen, so I was like, all right, well, a lot of these are unsubstantiated. They're not credible." I was working on a video script, and then immediately all this dropped, and I was like, all right, well, time to cover this now. I'm here, I'm talking at the convention, I'm here with our Lord and Savior, Rekieta Law, for those guys. Someone said the Supreme Leader is here.
Oh, yeah, that's my dude.
Oh, that's funny. But, so I want to ask a question about, follow me on YouTube at the Casual Otaku.
No, you don't say that. Follow him on YouTube at the Casual Otaku, and follow him on Twitter at Casual Otaku Man. Casual Otaku Man.
Ignore him. Don't do any of this.
Yeah.
Forget I ever existed. So I want to move on to the Todd Haberkorn stuff.
Yeah, sure.
Because I think it's very similar. For those of you who don't know, Todd Haberkorn is a very popular voice actor. What is he like? What's his best known role? Because I don't watch enough anime. His best known role, I would say, is Death the Kid from Soul Eater. Personally, huh? Who? I don't know who that is, so apparently not. I know him. I was introduced to him. I watched Soul Eater, so I knew him there. But I got to love his work from Full Metal Alchemist. He was Ling Yao. He's been in other stuff, and I feel disgraced for not knowing off the top of my head.
Natsu from Fairy Tail.
Natsu from Fairy Tail. Okay, I know that.
It is really hard to hear the live audience up on the stage. So. Thank you, Chad.
Natsu from Fairy Tail. He's really popular that way. He's also, if you watch his panels, he's also a personality. He's also very out there, very interacting with the audience, kind of like Vic is, I would say.
Yeah, I've talked to him a very little bit, and he seems like he has a good grasp on being around people. He seems very much like he is comfortable in interpersonal communications.
Yes, he's very cool. But so a while ago, there were some allegations against him by some people, basically saying that he walked up behind someone, grabbed their hair, and started whispering things into their ear sexually.
Wait a minute. That sounds like the Vic accusations.
Yes.
So that was leveled against Todd
Haberkorn.
I thought the only thing against Todd Haberkorn was the Jesse Pridemore stuff.
I thought that was part of the Jesse Pridemore stuff.
Oh, okay. I think Jesse accused Vic of the hair pulling thing after attaching the other story to Todd.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
So there were some. She came out and said that he raped her, right?
Right.
Then a friend came in, showed some a
guy named Adam.
Adam, his bro Adam showed up with some direct messages between the two, basically disproving the whole story, essentially proving that Todd was innocent completely. Then she moves on and attaches the same thing to Vic Mignogna.
Right.
The whole hair pulling thing. It was either her or it was Jamie Marchi, I think it was.
Both.
The story is so close that either they had a game between the two where they were let's see who can be a creep and pull girls' hairs the most, I guess. Or it was just a convenient story that she decided to levy against Vic.
And of course, Monica Rial has made the similar accusation in addition to her "he kissed me in his hotel room" accusation.
Right.
So that's a little weird.
Yeah, it seems very I don't once again I don't want to attribute malice to anyone, even though it might be so even though it might be so easy to. So I'm wondering, do you think it was they saw that it was a convenient allegation and that they could move it along, or do you think it was just something that they didn't think they would get caught for that, or they wanted to try to maybe make it a conspiracy thing where they wanted to attach it to everyone they considered problematic and then possibly make it a hit towards multiple people, like a trump card?
I think. Have you seen the pictures of Vic pulling Wendy something?
Wendy Powell's hair? Yeah.
Yeah. I think maybe there's something to that picture, which is from 2007, that they thought okay, we can make this story work. The problem I have with all of this is, and I hate to sound like internet conspiratorial. I like to stick with legal conspiracy because it's, if I can prove that there are two people working against someone in court, that makes me more comfortable than being the conspiracy theory. So, but if I step out of that, there's so many people communicating prior to this happening, and their network is so incestuous that I have to, like, I can't get away from the idea that these stories are coordinated. I just can't.
So you think that it could be like an allegation that they thought they could make stick and then maybe move on to like someone else. So like this is a thing in the voice actor community. There is just a terrible group of men go around pulling women's hair.
Let me make a suggestion. Jamie Marchi has what, like pretty red hair, right? Like
yes.
Red hair. Monica Rial has blue hair right now, but she was a hairstylist before she was a voice actor. Both of them been friends with Vic for a long time. I think it's entirely possible that either of them did something with their hair, and that Vic maybe like walked up and was touching their hair or something, right? Admiring what they did as a friend, with them.
So I think they set a trap, essentially, kinda. Like,
I don't know that they set a trap, but I think maybe if they conveniently misremember a situation in a specific way, a situation that would be common to both of them, then they could infer some sort of nefarious intent where there might not have been. And my backup for that is that they can very clearly remember exactly what he did physically, but neither of them can seem to remember what he said. And it seems to me if you're assaulting me, I might focus on what was being said. But that's me. I don't know. I've only been assaulted several times.
That is my problem. That is the big red flag that made me go, okay, I don't believe a lot of you. Because it's like, all right, Vic did this to you. Where did he do it to you? When did he do it to you? You guys go to a lot of conventions, sure, but I'm sure you'd remember the convention it happened to, like to you at, probably.
You'd think.
And I want to make something clear because I saw Wendy Powell get a lot of crap for this. The Yellow Flash made a video, which I messaged him and I was like, hey man, you got this fact wrong, so he took it down.
Sure.
Wendy Powell is the voice actress for Envy in Full Metal Alchemist, my favorite villain of all time. And there's images of Vic pulling her hair, and but she's smiling, he's smiling. It looks like they're joking around. She never came out and made any kind of allegation towards him. She doesn't even have a Twitter. She hasn't said anything publicly. But I saw some people accusing her of coming out against Vic, which just isn't true. The redhead against Vic is Jamie Marchi. So Wendy is completely innocent, from what I've seen so far, in case anyone's wondering.
Yeah, as far as I understand, Wendy has been neutral or,
silent.
Yeah, completely silent on the issue. Good to clear that up. But yeah, I think maybe they're borrowing from that picture, borrowing from their own memories. And here's the thing. I know the stream is laggy, but that's Amarillo for you. No, yeah, go ahead and if you are having lag problems, go ahead and refresh.
Hey, Spider-Man, you can't complain. You have a shirt that says Queens.
All right. So here's one thing to remember in all this. Just because someone misremembers a factual scenario doesn't mean that to them it's not true, and it doesn't necessarily mean that to them they're trying to hurt someone. We see this a lot in law. Eyewitness testimony is notoriously bad. We accept it as great evidence, but it's really, really terrible. Even firsthand testimony, because the longer away from an event that you are, the worse you are at remembering it. Our brains are bad. We don't have hard drives with videos, right? We have brains that attach emotion. They attach politics. They attach malice. They infer things and then redraw how we see past events. So giving Marchi and Rial the benefit of the doubt, let's say they remember an event where Vic came up and complimented their hair. Now let's say that was 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And over the next 10 years,
Of just hearing allegation after allegation.
and not liking him
Yeah.
a little bit more each day, because at each con that's going on, he's getting more popular, they're getting less popular. He's doing things that they don't like. He's expressing his religion and maybe they don't approve of it. I don't know, I'm just going through a list of things. Like, I'm not saying this is what their thought process is. And it's not conscious. It's a subconscious process where just these little things add up. Now let's say 10 years later, they remember that event where they had done something with their hair. Vic walks up and compliments it, but they think, this guy's a creep, this guy's a scumbag, I don't like him. And then they remember, their brain takes that picture of him with Wendy Powell
Yeah.
and inserts their face onto it. This is a common thing for assault victims, especially, or even worse, it's possible that they were assaulted by someone else in that way, but they didn't know who their assailant was, and their brain, using baggage and drama, could put Vic's head on that assaulter. That's perfectly legitimate. That happens all the time. Actually, we saw it with Kavanaugh, where Christine Blasey Ford or whatever made these accusations about Brett Kavanaugh.
Other people came forward and said they were the ones, and like
other people said, well, no, wasn't even there.
Yeah.
None of this happened. We were never at this party. But he was a guy that, judging by her past writing, she clearly knew, maybe even admired as a friend or more than a friend, and then was not with him. That trauma and the time can actually replace the person who did assault you with someone else. Because again, our brains are very, very unreliable on this stuff. And there is tons of literature on how bad our brains can manipulate the facts.
So, also another fun fact, when I was little, something similar to what Vic is being accused of happened to me. I was like...
You got too many stories, bro.
I know, right? I'm not going into detail because it's kind of dark. But the funny thing is, like, I can tell you some of the days that it happened. I can tell you where, I can tell you who did it. But, so what you're saying is that for a lot of the time, people just can't remember something like that. And then they just kind of, they take different things that they think they know, put it together. My question for you is, what would you say, who would you say is doing this? Who would you say is maliciously lying? Who would you say is just like not quite, like they don't know?
I'll say the person who definitely doesn't know is Ron Toye.
That's fair.
And I will ascribe a little bit of malice to his lies, but I'll also ascribe a huge portion of white knighting for his fiancée, which is, in some respects, commendable. You got to stick with the person, but you don't stick with the person to the point of tearing someone else's career apart, in my opinion. I think the people who are lying about it, I think Han Leia is absolutely lying. I think Mars Girl's being very careful, she thinks, to not lie, but she's passing on things that she has to know are not true. And in defamation law, that's still defamation, so you're not immune, sweetie. I think they're the two of the worst culprits. With excuse me, with the voice actors, I think they're really circling wagons. I have a little rumor. I have a little bird whispered in my ear that prior to, because you know the IO9 article mentioned that Funimation had conducted an investigation prior to casting Broly and found it inconclusive on Vic Mignogna.
Right.
I have a little bird who whispered in my ear and said that the voice actors had supported that investigation, came back inconclusive, and then after that, after Broly was cast and prior to release, that they started making noise to get him removed again. And so I think these voice actors saw an opportunity with the allegations, didn't work out. I think they circled wagons, got their stories together, and then levied them against him again. I don't know that a second investigation ever happened at Funimation. If you notice, they've never confirmed that there was a second investigation.
Right.
We only know that there was one from the IO9 article. And they said in their statement, following an investigation, which is true. It could have followed an investigation. It necessarily did. but it could have followed that inconclusive investigation. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That the firing was not necessarily a result of the misconduct that they were looking for. The firing could have been a result of the shrieking harpies, as I'm calling them. Right now.
So here's another question. I'm just full of those today.
Sure.
So let's say Vic did kiss Monica. Let's say he did. I mean, I don't believe he forced himself upon anyone, but let's say he was a little inappropriate. Let's say they don't like working with him as a person.
Okay.
Do you think Funimation and Rooster Teeth are still within their rights to drop him and keep him dropped?
In the state of Texas, yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
In the state of Texas, you can fire anybody for any reason. You say, you know what? You're ugly. Get out. And there's nothing you can do about it.
I did not know that.
Yep. In the state of Texas, it is an at-will state. So outside of a very specific contract, and sources tell me that the contract that these voice actors have is very, very general and basic. And if you're wondering out there, I do not believe that these guys have individual contracts for their projects. I am pretty sure that Vic did not have a specific Broly contract, for example, and that Todd Haberkorn does not have a specific what was it?
Natsu.
Fairy Tale contract to be the voice of Natsu. I think they have a general contract that says when you come in, you put in this much studio time. We pay you this many dollars per hour of studio time, and that's it. It's basic at-will employment. They're 1099 contractors, and that's the whole gist. So if they want to fire them from that, they can do it for literally any reason. That's what's so baffling about Funimation's statement, and even Rooster Teeth's statement, because they could have fired him and just never said anything.
They literally could have been just like, you know what, we honestly don't enjoy working with Vic, so we're just separating ways after this.
No, they should have just said nothing. Like, just let people figure out that Vic was done. That would be the proper business move. The smart business move would have been Mr. Mignogna, we will no longer work with you, and then never make a public statement on it. They had no reason to in Texas.
Do you think that this whole mess, because even if you agree with the Kick Vickers, you cannot deny that one side has handled their whole situation extremely well, giving a brief statement, going quiet like a ninja, Vic just waiting in the shadows, everyone else just like messing up. Do you think that this whole catastrophe of a situation is at fault of the company? Or do you think we can blame individual voice actors for coming forward and being like, yes, he did this, and this, and who would you attribute this to?
Okay, so the moment that this happened,
yes,
actually starting January 16th, Rooster Teeth and Funimation's general counsel, Funimation's general counsel is Evan Stone. I don't remember the name of Rooster Teeth's general counsel, but she's an experienced corporate lawyer. I think she's been practicing for 9 years. She seems relatively competent, maybe. I don't know. We'll see. I guess we'll find out. I think that those two general counsels should have gone to the voice actors in the interest of the company, not in the interest of the voice actors. Who cares? They're independent contractors. They think that they're going to be defended, but I'm pretty sure they're going to have to fend for themselves. So Evan Stone and the Rooster Teeth employee should have gone, you guys shut your mouths because you're going to drag us into this. And if you try that, we will bury you. That's what they should have said to them.
The stream seems to have...
It's spiking up and down.
But if this is above 2,500, we're good. If it drops below, it's iffy.
Nice.
But who knows?
Everyone's pressing F.
Yeah. If F5, if you refresh the stream, if it's having trouble. Anyway. Oh yeah. Sorry, we got to stop hitting the table because the mic picks that up. Okay. So they should have protected their companies,
Right.
and said, voice actors, shut your mouths, because we don't want to be roped into this. Now, each of those voice actors should have consulted lawyers right away. They definitely should have consulted lawyers the minute I said that he was lawyering up.
Yeah.
That's a no-brainer. But, they didn't. So it's their own fault. It's really their fault. But it's also on the companies a little bit for not getting control of their employees. They really should have done that for their own interests, if no one else's. I'm glad that Vic has stayed very quiet. You know, he was pretty quiet even before, you know, I talked to him, even before he had hired a law firm. So he seemed to be playing it pretty well from the get-go. I mean, he had made a couple statements on Twitter, but they were rather innocuous, just very generalized apologies. And that's something important to remember. Vic didn't want to go this way.
Yeah, right.
It's pretty apparent that Vic was just like, can we please, like, I'm sorry if I ever made anyone uncomfortable. That was never my intention. Can we please move on with life now? That was his thing. And then that wasn't allowed, right? They kept kicking him and kept kicking him. And so then he was forced to respond in a different way.
He was like, all right, lawyering up. And then he got all the money. And I've noticed a lot of the other side have seemed to start to die down a little. If they're smart, they'll continue that.
Yeah, like I said earlier, I think it got very real for a couple people. Or if it hasn't yet, I think it will very early next week.
I don't like attributing malice to a lot of people, but I feel comfortable attributing stupidity to a lot of people, and I will say that there has been a lot of mishandling of their side of the situation. So, what's next? What do you think Vic should do now? Obviously, Funimation, Rooster Teeth, I think they're a little too liberal to ever bring him back or apologize. So, like, what should Vic do next? Do you think he should try to start his own production company? What would your next step be if you were in his shoes?
Sure. I think it's pretty complicated as to what his next steps should be, but Vic has a huge fan base.
Yes.
He's very talented. He is, I guess, subjectively handsome. I don't call other men handsome, but other people call him handsome.
He looks like David Bowie, if you find David Bowie handsome, I guess.
So Vic has the ability to do a couple different things. The same thing anybody else has done who gets thrown off the internet, right? Or who gets thrown out of their job. They can create their own companies. He's probably got very good relationships with people in Japan. People in Japan knows that he's a moneymaker. So, and he's probably still got some relationships with people in the industry. And once the toxicity of the situation dies down, I think he can leverage those relationships into creating his own production company.
Especially since the Dragon Ball Broly movie just came out, and for a whole week, it was on the top 10 like grossing movies of the weekend, which is unheard of when it comes to anime anything.
Right.
So the fact that his character Broly is such a moneymaker, I feel, especially Toei, might be willing to pull the plug on Funimation, or is it Funimation? Funimation's Dragon Ball, and maybe move it to whoever Vic wants to do.
Or Toei could make demands on Funimation. Or Toei could say, we'll cast everybody else, you can cast everybody else, but we're gonna demand that Vic Mignogna be cast through Broly, and if you don't wanna do that, we'll get a third-party contractor to do the recording and send it to you to mix.
Right.
Like Toei probably has that authority over Funimation, and even if the authority isn't legal, it's certainly enough where they could say, fine, we'll pull the license.
Yeah, Dragon Ball Super is the highest, like, most watched anime currently. Like, everyone loves My Hero, and we all love One Piece, but Dragon Ball Super is the king right now, and I feel like if they wanted to, like, they could destroy Funimation if they decided to pull it, which I would personally lean that way. But
yeah.
From an independent standpoint, what do you think he should do? Should he focus on more indie projects, bring his fan base that way? Would you try to get him connected to more bigger anime?
If I were advising Vic on this stuff, I would advise him, one, to work on his individual branding. I mean, there are so many avenues for individual creators to make tons of money. Vic could do something with YouTube. Vic could do, because he can clearly has an on-camera presence. That's just fine. He's got a voice that people pay for.
Right.
So he could clearly do something with YouTube. He could do stuff with Kickstarter and Indiegogo. He already has a built-in massive following on Twitter. that he can quickly convert into something like a YouTube channel, and he could quickly convert into real dollars on Indiegogo projects. I mean, didn't they crowdfund their Star Trek?
The Star Trek thing?
Star Trek
I
Continues?
don't know about are you talking about the book?
No, the live action show that they did, Star Trek Continues.
Yeah, I want to say they did, but that
I think they crowdfunded, and also that Axanar scumbag crowdfunded too. Whoops. Hey, that Axanar guy, if you want to come on my show for an interview, I'd love to have you, my friend.
Yeah, do it.
But yeah, so I think they did crowdfund that, and even so, there are projects like that he could use his connections, he could get groundswell support, and then of course there's the other way you could go. He could hook up with other creators who have been tossed off of the internet and are creating their own sub-market. The comics community has Comicsgate. You've got talented writers in the Comicsgate community.
He could do like gaming and stuff. I know there's a ton of Gamergate stuff that went down, so like if there are any independent developers that way, he could definitely get in big that way.
Right.
I have a lot of friends in the animation community. I know people who have been approached by Attack on Titan to work on their stuff. I have personally worked with a guy who worked on Netflix's Castlevania, stuff like that. I know there are plenty of people who get like blacklisted or stuff like that Vic could take advantage of. Not take advantage of, but like,
utilize his network.
Utilize their abilities.
Right.
There's a Twitter campaign basically for a show called I don't know the show name, but the actual like company is called like Fantasy Soft Studios. They're doing their own like Kickstarter for an animated series.
Right, and Vic and Todd Haberkorn are both cast in that.
Vic and Todd Haberkorn are the characters. Wendy Powell, who I said hasn't said anything, is attached. Tyrone Magnus is attached. But so like that's what's funny is, have we seen any voice actors who have come out in support of Vic? Because I've seen Todd Haberkorn seems to be in support of Vic. Wendy Powell's silence, I think, is kind of, speaks volumes.
I think the people who are in support of Vic are terrified of coming out.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know that I've seen Todd be too specifically supportive, but I think that maybe he's at least neutral on it, because I haven't seen him say anything negative.
Right.
But I do think that they have a reality that they're in a network of people where let's just say let's hypothesize here. Let's hypothesize that a group of influential people at a company like Funimation, let's hypothetically call it Sis Kabat, for example, like a hypothetical voice actor named Sis Kabat, right? That doesn't exist. Let's say he has a lot of influence over casting decisions.
Right.
Let's say that there was someone who maybe considered speaking out in support of Vic Mignogna, and they found out about it. And let's say there would be maybe a message sent out to someone who might have that support saying, this would be a very bad move for you. It'd be really bad optics. It'd be a real shame if you wanted to do something like that. I think maybe, just maybe, there's something like that going on behind the scenes at Funimation, but I'm just a guy.
In other words, Mr. Sis Sabat has all the might, if you will.
Sis Kabat.
Yeah, Sis
Let's
Kabat.
be very clear,
Okay,
there's a
you're
fictional
right.
person that doesn't
This
exist.
person doesn't exist.
Right.
Now, let's say there are these people, these like, I wouldn't even say conservative, these just not insane voice actors who are afraid to speak out. Would you say that, what would you do if you were in their shoes? Do you think they should get together, like completely branch off, form their own thing, get licensed for animes as like a competitor for Funimation?
If I'm giving them legal advice, which
Yes.
I'm not,
Right.
hypothetical legal advice, the hardest part about being a lawyer is telling people when they should shut up and listen to where the cards fall.
Mm-hmm.
They have to think about their careers, and that's a very unfortunate. I mean, my heart and my gut tells me stand up for your friends.
Right.
Stick up for them. But the reality of sticking up for your friends is losing your career, possibly.
Mm-hmm.
They have to weigh that decision out for themselves, and I'm not the guy to tell them to do that.
Right.
And I think it's very naive of people on the internet who don't have their entire livelihood to lose to do that. So I try and avoid that. So if I were counseling them, I would be very hesitant to say to stand up, regardless of how they feel. I'd say, look how the cards fall. Keep quiet. You know, watch the situation, and then, you know, maybe the cards do fall Vic's way, and they say that they think that the companies that they work for are trash, and then they want to move out, and Vic starts something up. Then go to it. Yeah, stand up for him then. But it's a really hard thing to do. That's the lawyer in me that has to take that approach, unfortunately.
Now, obviously, I would say it can't stay this way. Like, there can't be this cabal of people who get to dictate who can work and, like, who just will be blacklisted from everything. If they had the motivation to branch off and do something along their own lines, do you think they, like, obviously you say wait for the cards to fall. I would say from what I've seen that the cards have fallen mostly in Vic's favor.
I think so.
I mean, you even see Funimation disabled their cancel subscription button and claimed,
No, that was an accident.
yeah, they claimed it was an accident. You accidentally disabled coding in your website. But so would you what do you think is the logical next step for this whole system? Do you think these companies just lose so much support they maybe delve even deeper into their side? Do you think that there might be a shakeup? A lot of these people might be cast out, or what do you say?
If I could suggest something to anyone who might be in that position, look how embarrassingly bad these companies have been at navigating this situation. Funimation is on thin ice.
Yes.
Their conduct in this case has been bad. Their management decisions have been bad. Their optics and perception have been bad. They risk losing customers by the minute. They risk losing the Japanese by the day. If there's a chance to branch off, I mean, there are life rafts. I'm just saying, there's life rafts. This isn't the Titanic. There are plenty of life rafts to go around, and you may want to consider that they've been driving right at an iceberg.
Right.
Through all of this. And that's something that, you know, you do with any company, especially a company that runs on thin margins, that pays you. Guys, what do they pay you? What do they pay you? I'm going to talk about this to the audience. I'm going to be talking about this next week. You know that Funimation and Rooster Teeth are located in Texas, when many, many voice acting studios are located in LA. You know why they're located in Texas, right? If you don't know, stay tuned, because that's coming up this week. We're going to talk about these very progressive, very, very for the worker, for the people companies, why they located in a state with some of the most lax employment laws in existence. Just remember that's what Funimation is. And just remember that if you're a Texas employee of Funimation, they're paying you nothing. They're paying you less than I get paid. That's sad. That's really sad. So we are coming to the end. So do we want to have some closing thoughts?
Do you want to take some questions just real quick?
Do you guys have any questions? Here? You gotta yell. Or come on up. Yeah, that sounds good.
How you doing? Plug your stuff.
Yeah. Right. Sure.
So to what he just asked, he asked Monica's obvious like copy pasta, her joke, the joke that's been made out of her is whenever someone says anything critical, she goes, "Thank you. This comment has been screenshotted and sent to my attorney. I will not be harassed. Have a nice day." And he was wondering if, because harassment, the legal definition means to annoy, would that have any like bearing?
Right. So the legal definition of annoy, as the audience member correctly stated, I know you guys couldn't hear it at home, but the audience member correctly stated the annoying aspect of harassment was included for things like knocking on doors at all hours of the day. It was included for constantly ringing a telephone. or like leaving voice messages from a fax machine. That would be really, really annoying, right? Every time you hear your answering machine recording, it's that nasty old modem sound. Okay, so that was the original legal definition of annoying. He's asking if that has application on the internet. There is not a lot of case law around that. However, there was in Minnesota, thank you, Commie State, there was an actual conviction of malicious adding on Twitter, where these kids in high school were adding, this other kid who wasn't even getting the messages because he didn't use his Twitter until his school informed him that he was being harassed, and then those kids were prosecuted, and they did find a cause of action in that. So it is possible. However, in that specific case, we're talking they were tagging him on Twitter 50 to 100 times a day with very, very mean comments. We're not talking about replying to threads with their name attached, right? So this is a very different sort of situation. It was kind of roped into a cyberbullying thing. So to answer your question, in Texas, no. The Texas definition of harassment will have no bearing. To annoy does not mean to excessively talk to someone on Twitter when they could, what's the quote from Tyler the Creator, right? Just close your eyes, just walk away from the computer. What even is cyberbullying? Just turn it off. So no, that won't be a factor for her, and that's.
And it's funny that they can, because I mean, Wendy doesn't have a Twitter, so like, you might say they're voice actors, they have to promote themselves, but like, they don't have to. They're established voice actors. They don't need the Twitter. So
right.
the idea that saying, "Hey, Monica, you're kind of being a little crazy," is suddenly like sue-worthy.
And if you're out there and you're a voice actor and you have a habit of calling your fans horrible people and saying they're terrible and saying that you don't want them to buy your stuff, delete your Twitter. Delete it immediately.
I can't watch the My Hero dub anymore. I have to watch subbed. It's terrible.
Well, man, we should wrap this up because our time is at an end.
Probably
so.
Should.
Thank you very much for joining me on this panel. Thank you to the audience. Oh, Spider-Man has a question.
Spider-Man has a question.
Mine or his? Mine is Rekieta. Rekieta. Rekieta Law.
I was gonna say, because the first part of my YouTube name is the. So.
Yeah. THE for that one. So, all right, guys, thanks a bunch. Again, check out the Casual Otaku on Twitter. Check him out, Casual Otaku Man on Twitter.
Yes.
And the Casual Otaku on YouTube. If you like his stuff, go ahead and subscribe to it. You got anything else?
Thank you all for joining us. This isn't for you guys, but this is for you guys. Tomorrow I'm doing a panel about animation, because I've worked with some people in the animation industry, talking about what happens. He won't be joining me for that one, unless you want to.
No, I'm gonna be on a plane.
Nice, that's fun.
No.
I like planes. Hey, I drove up here.
Oh, good Lord.
I live near Austin.
Okay, yeah, that's a trek.
Yeah, so until then, I guess we'll go ahead and wrap it up.
Yeah, thanks guys. Thanks for watching. Thank you, audience. And if you follow me, I will be live streaming, I believe, tonight at 11 p.m. Central with a bunch of liquor.
Thank you guys. This has been your Casual Otaku, signing out.
Thanks guys. Peace.